Hi, boys and girls. This is reading lesson number 11, and today we're going to read The True Story of the Three Little Pigs. Last lesson, we read the traditional tale of the Three Little Pigs, and today we're going to read a fractured tale. A fractured tale means that it is a story that's based on a fairy tale, a traditional fairy tale, but the author decides to change the story in some way and for some reason. Sometimes an author will make a change because the author wants to make that very old story more modern. Sometimes the author changes the story to make it more interesting. Or sometimes the author changes a traditional fairy tale to make it funny. Okay, so let's read this and try to guess why we think the author, John Shiska, changed the traditional fairy tale of the Three Little Pigs in this way. We're going to continue to think about plot or the events that make up the story. When we're thinking about plot, it's good to just ask yourself, what's happening in the story? That's a good way of remembering what plot means. Okay, so let's read The True Story of the Three Little Pigs. And you can see the cover kind of looks, it's made to look like a newspaper. The Daily Wolf, and there's like an article here, and then this would be like the photo on the newspaper. Everybody knows the story of the Three Little Pigs, or at least they think they do. But I'll let you in on a little secret. Nobody knows the real story because nobody has ever heard my side of the story. I'm the wolf, Alexander T. Wolf. You can call me Al. I don't know how this whole big, bad wolf thing got started, but it's all wrong. Maybe it's because of our diet. Hey, it's not my fault wolves eat cute little animals like bunnies and sheep and pigs. That's just the way we are. If cheeseburgers were cute, folks would probably think you were big and bad too. But like I was saying, the whole big bad wolf thing is all wrong. The real story is about a sneeze and a cup of sugar. This is the real story. Way back in Once Upon a Time, I was making a birthday cake for my dear old granny. I had a terrible sneezing cold. I ran out of sugar. So I walked down the street to ask my neighbor for a cup of sugar. Now this neighbor was a pig, and he wasn't too bright either. He had built his whole house out of straw. Can you believe it? I mean, who in his right mind would build a house out of straw? You see, he has the measuring cup there. He's tossing it in the air. So the event so far is that he's baking a cake, he ran out of sugar, he also has a cold, and he decides to go over to the neighbors to ask for some sugar. So, of course, the minute I knocked on the door, it fell right in. I didn't want to just walk into someone else's house, so I called, little pig, are you in? No answer. I was just about to go home without the cup of sugar for my dear old granny's birthday cake. That's when my nose started to itch. I felt a sneeze coming on. Well, I huffed and I snuffed. And I sneezed a great sneeze. Achoo! Oh, boy, there's the piggy, I think. And you know what? The whole darn straw house fell down. And right in the middle of the pile of straw was the first little pig, dead as a doornail. He had been home the whole time. It seemed like a shame to leave a perfectly good ham dinner lying there on the straw, so I ate it up. Think of it as a big cheeseburger just lying there. I was feeling a little better, but I still didn't have my cup of sugar, so I went to the next neighbor's house. This neighbor was the first little pig's brother. He was a little smarter, but not much. He had built his house of sticks. I rang the bell on the stick house. Nobody answered. I called, "Mr. Pig, Mr. Pig, are you in?" He yelled back, "Go away, Wolf! You can't come in. I'm shaving the hairs on my chinny chin chin." I had just grabbed the doorknob when I felt another sneeze coming on. I huffed and I snuffed and I tried to cover my mouth, but I sneezed a great sneeze. Achoo! And you're not going to believe this, but this guy's house fell down just like his brother's. When the dust cleared, there was the second little pig, dead as a doornail. Wolf's honor. Oh. Now, you know food will spoil if you just leave it out in the open. So I did the only thing there was to do. I had dinner again. Think of it as a second helping. I was getting awfully full, but my cold was feeling a little better. And I still didn't have that cup of sugar for my dear old Granny's birthday cake. So I went to the next house. This guy was the first and second little pig's brother. He must have been the brains of the family. He had built his house out of bricks. Now I knocked on the brick house. No answer. I called, "Mr. Pig, are you in?" And do you know what that rude little porker answered? "Get out of here, Wolf! Don't bother me again!" Talk about impolite. He probably had a whole sack full of sugar, and he wouldn't give me even one little cup for my dear sweet old Granny's birthday cake. What a pig! I was just about to go home and maybe make a nice birthday card instead of a cake when I felt my cold coming on. I huffed and I snuffed and I sneezed once again. Then the third little pig yelled, "And your old Granny can sit on a pin, Woofy!" You can see how the plot is very similar to the traditional tale, The Three Little Pigs. The wolf is going to each of the brothers' house. The first brother that made his house out of straw, when he sneezed, it fell over and it killed the pig. And then the wolf decided rather than just leave some good food laying around, he was going to eat it. Then he went over to the second pig brother's house, who made his house out of sticks. Same thing happened there. And now he's at the third brother's house, who made his house out of bricks. So the plot is very similar so far to the traditional story. Let's see what happens next. Now, I'm usually a pretty calm fellow, but when somebody talks about my granny like that, I go a little crazy. When the cops drove up, of course, I was trying to break down this pig's door. And the whole time I was huffing and puffing and sneezing and making a real scene. Do you see him? Oh, you see the reporters? And I think this is a police. Do you see the police is a pig, I think? The news reporters found out about the 2 pigs I had for dinner. They figured a sick guy going to borrow a cup of sugar didn't sound very exciting. So they jazzed up the story with all of that huff and puff and blow your house down, and they made me the big bad wolf. That's it. The real story, I was framed. But maybe you could loan me a cup of sugar. So you can see that the plot was very similar to the traditional, but the ending was the biggest difference. The wolf ended up getting arrested and ending up in jail. Now, it doesn't say that, but you can look at the illustration. Do you see? So the ending is really the biggest difference. The other difference is that this story is told from a different perspective. It's kind of from the pig's perspective, and that the big bad wolf was very mean and out to get them. And then this story, this wolf was saying it was all an accident. He wasn't out to get them. He just wanted to borrow a cup of sugar. And then when their houses fell down, he decided he would eat them. So when you are reading your own books at home, continue thinking about the plot, the events that are happening in your stories, and continue practicing retelling your stories to a family member or a friend. Okay? I'll see you next time.